Hi, Abby. How are you today?
Hey Emily, I'm doing good today. Doing feels good to be back and I'm actually surprised that I'm kind of enjoying coming here. And yeah, I don't know, it's just nice having someone to talk to that gets it. So I'm glad to be back.
I am glad that you're here. I know last week we talked about some long-term goals and some kind of weight steps to get there. I just wanted to briefly go over what changes have you noticed, or if anything,
Mhm.
what's been, what have you tried, what's worked, what hasn't worked in the past week?
Yeah, I think before I was more quick to deflect that like my drinking's not an issue, especially with my husband or his looks. I'm kind of quick to say the little snappy comments, and I find that now since making the decision that I would rather not be so dependent on alcohol to like be happy with my everyday and being a mom and stuff, that it's given me a little more like those moments before when I would like snap back with a snarky comment. I don't do that anymore. So um yeah, there's definitely still like I think I haven't made any physical changes per se yet, but the desire is there. And I find that being okay and accepting of, all right, like I'm gonna do this. I kind of take it like a like a health diet or nutrition thing, and I'm gonna be doing this, and we're gonna I'm gonna put my all into it, but I just haven't done it yet.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, that's the first step really, is
Yeah.
being aware of it, acknowledging it, and making a plan. So it's not like overnight all of a sudden you have to have everything figured out, but you're
Hmm.
definitely, on the right track to this. So that's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think so. I feel like that was the big like emotional shift
Mm.
over this past week, though I haven't acted on it per se, besides not deflecting as much as much.
Can you give an example of like the deflecting and
Hmm.
how that's kind of, you talked about how you haven't really made any like physical changes, but is that deflection, or that lessening of the deflection,
Mhm.
how is that affecting the conflict in your marriage? Is that
Mhm. Yeah, I think um, my spouse, he's more gentle. I guess he's not really combative. And in my family, we're very combative. And it's almost like that's the way uh, we are heard and get our point across and stand up for ourselves. But there's also like that's how we are seen. And so, but with him, he is more gentle and he's not from a family like that. And so, like when I am doing what I normally do or say something snarky or like, oh, like you wouldn't like imagine what the drinking was like in my family, like this is nothing, or what that's an example. And I think it makes him, well, maybe a little more like he feels like he can't talk, like it shuts down the conversation. Um, and then I feel right. I'm like vindicated, came out on top. But with him, I think like he just doesn't, so then he'll step down and not address it. But so realizing that and knowing that I don't want him to feel like he can't talk, right? So I've been just, instead of saying those comments, I've been trying not to. And I'd say that he doesn't really talk about it as much anymore, but the little looks that I would say would bother me or something, I've just been ignoring now instead of rising up to defend myself or something.
okay?
Did that answer your question? I was.
Yeah, yeah. So it sounds like maybe not quite opening up communication, but definitely sounds like it's kind of preventing an escalation of some of that conflict. That
Yeah. And I would say that I don't think like I don't think I've talked to him or told him that, I'm going to, like, I'm making this decision to stop. And I don't really know why. Maybe it's because I'm afraid it won't work or I'm not going to be able to do it. Um, so yeah, so I haven't told him that yet, but yeah, I don't know exactly why. Maybe I'm just this is the safe place to talk about it. And then I feel like if I maybe talk to him, it's more real, and I don't want to get all defensive, and yeah.
okay. So maybe, you know, keeping it in your keeping it in a safe place right now, and not wanting to, totally, maybe totally commit, but you're here
Well,
today, so
yeah, I am ready. But I'm just like nervous to make that
yeah.
step, or what if, like, when you have someone else watching you or holding you up accountable, it's a little nervous, like nerve-wracking. So I feel that a little bit. Um,
Maybe some added pressure.
yeah, the added pressure, which I feel like I'll like kind of what we talked about last week, that needing other people to help. So I know I need to, right, and talk to him and my friends and stuff, but I guess I was putting it off, but I know I need to.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, definitely having that support system will help
Mhm.
you, but you got to
Mhm.
take things at your own speed. So
Yeah, I
not
know,
over.
maybe like practice what I would say, or I don't know.
We can practice some of those things in
Mhm.
therapy sessions too to
Okay.
work it out prior
Mhm.
to actually talking to your husband or any family.
Okay. Yeah.
So good. I'm really glad that you're really, it sounds like you're really committed to this. So that's definitely
Damn.
any chance of change happening, like anyone can change, but
Mhm.
there has to be that, desire to change. So I'm really happy to hear that
Yeah.
you're at that step. So
Took a couple weeks.
yeah, that's fine. That's okay. Um, I really today kind of wanted to go over a couple of different approaches that we could
Okay.
use. And I wanted to talk about some approaches that we can use in the therapy sessions,
Okay.
just with us. But I also wanted to introduce you to some approaches that you could use outside of therapy, at home. So
Okay.
um, the first one is cognitive behavioral therapy. And this is approach that we would be using within the therapy sessions. So it's really a focus on the thoughts and feelings and behaviors that are occurring and identifying any like negative automatic thoughts because we we have some ingrained thoughts inside of us.
Mhm.
That's just naturally what we have learned from
Mhm.
our environment growing up and various different reasons of why we think the way that we think. But we can have these negative automatic thoughts,
Mhm.
and that can lead to certain behaviors, certain habits that might be not serving us so well.
Okay.
So it's kind of digging into all of those layers and I'm trying to understand what the root thought is, the root feeling
Okay.
is.
Yeah.
And there's so many different ways, so many different focuses that we can look at. We can look at, habits, coping mechanisms that you have that, whenever you're having urges to drink,
Mhm.
identifying those triggers. So um, there's a lot of different avenues that we can go down, and really you can always be the one who's telling me, what you feel like we need to be focusing on.
Mhm.
And I want to keep this an open communication. This is, I mean, cognitive behavioral therapy, it's really just like talk therapy and challenging some of those thoughts and beliefs.
Okay.
Thing. But if ever you feel like, this isn't jiving well with me, this doesn't feel like something that's going to work, just let me know. Like, I want it to be open communication. The whole goal is for,
Mhm.
you to get the most effective and efficient therapy during your time.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
um, I wanted to go over just a couple of little um, activities with you.
Okay.
And I am going to share my screen so that you can, this first one is, okay, can you see that?
Yeah. Hmm.
This first one is just like cognitive distortion. So these are like the 16 most common cognitive distortions. And these distortions can cause us to create certain habits or behave in certain ways. And then we can kind of focus on that and figure out what's a healthier way for us to think and be able to,
Hmm.
with the situation. So I just kind of wanted to let you look over these and see if any stick out, really focusing on, um, you know, any triggers or situations that you can think of with the alcohol.
Hmm. I think that the two that stand out, they feel connected to me, but the polarized thinking,
Okay.
viewing things in absolute or black and white terms, and the perfectionist thinking.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I think it's one of those when it comes to like being a mom. Um, it feels kind of like black and white, like it's hard to be in the gray. Like I have to do my best or I'm not a good mom, sort of thing. I think that kind of ties into, how I'm trying to like drink to be that in my day to day.
Okay. So either you're a good mom or you're a terrible mom. There's like no in between. Is that kind of how to think?
Yeah, it feels, I think so. Which when you put it out like that, it like, it's kind of doesn't, like I wouldn't say that to someone else, but I kind of believe that over myself.
Okay. So
Mhm.
so just trying to understand, like, in everyday life, if there was something, say, um, I don't know, say your kid was acting out or something, and you didn't act, you didn't react in the manner that you really wanted to, or something like that. Is
Yeah.
that something where that's something that might trigger you to say, like, I I didn't, like, I'm a terrible mom because
Yeah. And then I think I would just like ruminate on it so much and think about it and how I might mess them up or they'll remember that. And then, um, yeah, that they'll remember all those sort of places I'm messed up, So it feels kind of like this, I don't know, circular cycle or something.
yeah. That really
Mhm.
ties into that perfectionistic thinking too, because it's,
Yeah.
I messed up, so I'm a terrible mom, but
Mhm.
then they're gonna remember that. You're putting, like, that's a lot of pressure on yourself to not.
Feels a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
And it almost feels like it's just really heavy and like I don't want to carry it all, it seems like a lot of responsibility. And I guess that ties into then having wine because it takes those feelings, like I don't think about them anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're ruminating over all of these things.
Mistakes or the responsibility or the pressure, and then how I'm not the type of person I want to be. And it just kind of makes me happy, I guess, until it makes me tired and then I go to sleep.
So drinking wine really pushes those thoughts out of your brain so that you don't have to think about
Yeah. Yeah. Emily, do you mind going back to full screen?
it. No.
That's okay. Great. Perfect. Now I can see you better.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I think those two, the polarized and the perfectionist, are kind of what stood out the most to me.
Okay. Um, another another activity that I wanted to do. Well, if I can get this to work. Can you still see me?
Yeah, I can see you great.
Okay. This is another cognitive behavioral therapy activity where it's called a thought record. And so it's really kind of challenging the thoughts, the reactions, the negative thoughts that you have on a certain situation. So I kind of wanted to go through one of them
Okay.
just to give you kind of an idea of how this would work in therapy sessions with challenging some of these beliefs.
Okay. Let's
So
do
if
it.
you can think of a situation or some sort of trigger that would cause you to want to open up a bottle of wine.
Okay. I would say it's definitely the after school time where knowing I gotta like make dinner, and then I feel like it's like that whole, I'm so used to having it at that time and like cooking with it and then drinking with it, drinking at dinner and before, and then bedtime, that it feels it's really hard to do, to not do now. And then so I feel like that whole, and maybe it's because it's like there's a few more hours of the day and it feels like the never ending time till bedtime. I feel like it's kind of that monotony. This is every day for the next 10 years, my life. I feel like that's kind of the triggering moment.
Okay. So really from after school until bedtime, there's this chunk of time that there's a lot
Mhm.
of responsibility on you.
Yeah. Yeah. Responsibility. I would say it feels that way. Mhm.
Okay. Um, so then what would be your initial reaction? Like any sort of emotional or physical reactions that you have during that time?
Hmm. Emotional or physical reactions. I mean, besides pouring myself a glass, I think there's times when before actually pouring myself a glass, I might feel a little guilty.
Okay. So some guilt.
Yeah, for wishing the day was over or wishing. Um, yeah, I feel like that's kind of, there's that twinge of feeling that or wishing I was different.
Wishing that you were enjoying it more.
Yeah, enjoying it, or, you know, want to be fully present, with the kids. And I think I feel a little guilt for not feeling that.
Okay.
Mhm.
So guilt. Any other emotions or like things that you would notice physically? You might not be paying attention to that a whole lot at this point.
Hmm.
Kind of think back to
Physically, I mean, I think I can't quite think of physically besides just, actually pouring myself a glass, but
any like tension or you feel like you're
oh, so I never pay attention to that. Let me think. I feel like when I'm remembering those moments, I feel more like pressure
Okay.
on my, I don't know, it just feels like the heaviness of it kind of gets me down. So maybe that's kind of like pressure on my shoulders or just, I don't know, I'll have to pay attention more when I'm in that. But yeah, it's definitely like not a comfortable, like thinking of that, those feelings. Even now I'm like, oh, I don't want to think about it. I just, um, I feel kind of ashamed about it.
Okay. Ashamed. So guilt, pressure, a heaviness. You feel some shame.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, let's go on then to some negative automatic thoughts.
Hmm. Um, I guess like I'm not a good mom. Uh,
I'm not a good mom.
mhm. Yeah. Or hmm, like I need this or I I can't like I can't do life without like or maybe I'll always feel this way.
Hmm.
Um yeah, it's hard to wake up just one day and just be like, oh, I love my life. you know, um, I don't know if I will feel that way. Maybe when the kids are older, but I don't know.
So I'll feel this way until for the next 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to imagine not feeling that. Um,
And that almost sounds like a little bit of like hopelessness.
a little bit, yeah. Because I don't want to feel this way, right? And then I feel terrible for feeling this way. And then
So also
like,
some of those like I shouldn't feel this way, some of those shoulds.
yeah, yeah. Well, I feel like I shouldn't. Um,
I mean, it's natural to like every aspect of anything in life, including kids.
mhm.
So
Yeah. Yeah, I think those are the ones that pop up though.
okay. So I have I'm not a good mom and I'll always feel this way.
Hmm.
That feels
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't feel good, but that
Oh,
feels feels accurate.
I missed
Yeah, I got you.
that. Okay, so based off of these negative thoughts, what supporting evidence do we have? And we'll go over so each of these negative automatic thoughts. So what supporting evidence do we have that you are not a good
I think that I need wine
mom? Okay,
to,
need wine.
to parent my best.
Okay.
Um, I feel like that's the big one.
Okay.
Mhm.
And then I'll always feel this way.
I mean, like it's been 8 years and I have felt this way a little bit. So it hasn't quite changed.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. So the evidence for the thought that you are not a good mom is that you need wine to parent your best. And the
Mhm.
supporting evidence for I'll always feel this way is because it's been happening for the past 8 years and
Mhm.
noticed any change in the past 8 years. It
Yeah.
hasn't improved.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now I would like to flip that and let's look at opposing evidence. What evidence do you have that opposes that you are not wrong?
I mean, I think my kids like me. They want to play with me and want to be with me now. I mean, who knows in the teenage years, but now they do.
Mhm.
Um, I feel like I'm still here for them. I feel like I haven't checked out completely like my mom did before. Like I'm still want their well-being and want to do better, I guess.
Making them a priority.
Yeah,
So
and I mean, I guess that's kind of why I'm here too, right? Like
that's
I
true.
want I want to um yeah, I want them to be a priority.
Okay. Any other evidence that you can think of for that opposes the thought that you are not a good mom?
I don't think so.
Okay. And then the other thought was, I'll always feel this way.
Hmm.
Any opposing thoughts?
That one's kind of harder.
Mhm.
I mean, I guess I don't know the future of what could happen. Hmm, I mean, my kids are going to get older and they'll have time to maybe do what I wanted to do before, um, with working outside the home and stuff. So that could change it, but I don't know if that really counts for. Um, does that kind of count for that one?
Sure. More time for yourself.
Maybe. Yeah. Um, yeah, that one's a little harder for me because it feels like I've felt that for so long.
Mhm.
Um,
You feel a little trapped.
yeah, and it's kind of feels a little, I don't know, like uncomfortable to hope that it would be different. Um, yeah, so just kind of assuming it's not makes it a little easier to handle because I'm already like prepared for it not to, um, for it always to feel that way, if that makes sense.
So let me just check in to see if I'm hearing this right. So basically, you kind of don't want to get your hopes up. Like if you're expecting
Mhm.
things will never change, then you won't feel like if in
Mhm.
2 years things pass and it's not changed, then you won't feel it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Mhm.
So I'll always feel this way feels a little bit more difficult to come up with opposing.
Yeah, because it's all inner, like there's not exterior evidence, I guess, right? Showing that it's not going to be. Um, yeah. But I
And
mean,
really,
I guess
it's
the
always
main thing is that I wouldn't know the future. So it could
true.
change, but I'd rather not.
The future.
Mhm.
Okay. So I just wanted to kind of look at the supporting evidence versus the opposing evidence. The supporting evidence, you had one supporting evidence that you're not a good mom, and that's that you need wine
Mhm.
to parent at your best.
Mhm.
But your opposing evidence is that your kids like you,
Mhm.
they want to play with you,
Mhm.
they enjoy being around you,
Mhm.
you are there for them, you care about their well-being, and you make them a priority. So that's a pretty long list.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, I guess you're right.
not.
Mhm.
The evidence for I'll always feel this way was the 8 years of feeling that way, and there's not been any change. Your opposing evidence is that your kids will get older and you'll have more time for yourself. And I did put on there, you kind of talked about how you can't predict the future. So
Mhm.
that kind of, it's about a little bit more of the opposing evidence.
Mhm.
But yeah, that one seemed to be a little bit harder for you.
Yeah.
But you
Yeah,
were able to find opposing evidence.
I was. It's hard. That I was, and it's interesting putting it all out like that on paper.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, it's even though like that first list was longer, I don't know why it's so hard to like believe all those things.
Well, I mean, we could say that you've never really allowed yourself to believe those because those
Mhm.
negative automatic thoughts are automatic. So if they're taking over your mind,
Mhm.
you're believing those initial thoughts. If you haven't challenged those before, then you're not really thinking about how is
Mhm.
this automatic thought actually not true.
Yeah. Yeah.
How
I
does it
know.
feel to like what comes up when you're thinking about especially the opposing evidence for I'm not a good one?
Yeah, I think, I mean, it's like it's like knowing the difference versus feeling, it's like I know my kids like me. Like all kids are gonna like their mom. Um, but then it's like feeling that like I'm the best for them. Like it's hard to let all of that sit. It's hard to believe that, I
Mhm.
think. Like I can think it and I'm like looking at we're talking about it and it's all on paper, and then the believing of it, like um it's hard to let that marinate.
Mhm. And it can take time to change those thoughts and those beliefs.
Mhm.
But really, the first step is being aware of them.
Mhm. Yeah, I don't think I've ever thought about them. Try not to think about them, actually. Yeah.
Is it uncomfortable to think that you are a good mom?
Hmm. Mm, yeah, it seems so contrary in some ways because it's like uh, if I was a good mom, then wouldn't I enjoy my life with them more? Like it's hard to, can I hold both, knowing I am a good mom and knowing that that is hard? It feels like, I don't know, society paints it differently. Um,
It can be hard to accept that you're a good mom, but you also make mistakes and you don't
mm,
perfect. You don't have to be the
Mhm.
absolute perfect mom and do everything right every single time to be a good mom.
Yeah, I mean, it seems, but I have to, but I have to do everything right.
That's the negative automatic thought,
Yeah, yes, yeah, it is.
not
That's,
the reality.
yeah, I guess it's like coming back to like my background and how my mom, she's kind of like painted the perfect example of who I don't want to be and how I don't want to parent.
Yeah.
So I feel like I have to be the complete opposite.
Mhm.
Um,
A lot of comparing yourself to your mom and
yeah,
placing a lot of expectations on yourself and knowing that you remember the things that your mom did. So there's a fear that your kids are gonna, with a lot
yes.
of pressure and a lot of ruminating thoughts that can be happening inside.
Yeah, exactly. I feel very exposed right now. Yes, that's, I would say that's very
So very
accurate.
good. So
Yes.
I'm not trying to
No,
expose
it's
in a bad
good.
way.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, I think so. And I think that's why it's, that whole perfectionist and black and white polarizing sort of thoughts. I don't want to be like her, and I don't want my kids to think those things about me, and then it's just a cycle. Um, yeah.
And I know that I think might have been our first session when you were talking about, you had kind of a hard birth with the first your son,
Mhm.
and talking about how breastfeeding was really hard. And there was just
Mhm.
a lot of bumps in the road that you didn't anticipate. And that's really when drinking kind of started, feeling like,
Mhm.
that you mentioned that you felt like maybe this just wasn't coming naturally to you
Yeah.
and that you weren't the perfect mother because it wasn't coming easy to you.
Mhm. Yeah.
And some of those seem to be kind of stuck in this cycle of perpetuating a thought that you must not be good because it's not easy, because you're not.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I think that's one of those things of, right, like no one talked to me about how difficult breastfeeding is, or um, about like, I don't know, like birth and just everything. Um, you know, people that have kids, is just no one kind of talks about the hard parts. It just kind of looks like they're, you know, doing it all just fine. Um, yeah, and it was really hard for me. And it didn't feel like it came naturally. I think that's kind of where there's some shame, I think, in that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And we can feel a lot of shame and it can just kind of um, I guess kind of marinate inside of us until we actually talk about it and realize that this is all normal.
Mhm.
This difficult. Parenthood is not easy. Not everyone talks about the difficulties because
Yeah.
there is a lot of shame in that. And so
Mhm.
exposing that and talking through that can
Mhm.
kind of erase some of that shame. So
Mhm.
I just
Yeah.
wanted to point that out that it's really brave to come in
Mhm.
here and be willing to look at some of this stuff that doesn't feel super
Mhm.
comfortable.
Yeah. Thank you. I don't like feeling so vulnerable, but I know it's good. Mhm.
Um, well, so that's kind of like just kind of shifting back to talking about like cognitive behavioral therapy.
Mhm.
That's kind of what that looks like. So you can kind of think it over a little bit, and I don't know, how that made you feel, and if you want to take some time to think about it, but that might be something that we could utilize in these therapy sessions to kind of get to the root of some of these thoughts that you're having that trigger you to start to want to.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay. Yeah, sounds good.
Another another approach that I kind of wanted to
Mhm.
about a little bit um, is mindfulness. I know that you do some yoga, and it's kind of,
Mhm.
in the same realm as
Mhm.
principles of yoga. So I thought this might be something that you might want, might be something
Mhm.
that is resonates with you. Um, but there's a lot of different ways to go about mindfulness. And it's essentially really focusing on, there's like the meditation mindfulness, which is like focusing on typically like breathing,
Mhm.
like either counting breaths or
Mhm.
recognizing where the breaths are taking place. Some people feel it in their chest, some people feel it in their stomach,
Mhm.
or focusing on like your feet touching the floor, like a pressure point, something like that. So it's really
Mhm.
um, focusing our mind on something
Mhm.
and breathing deep, breathing slow and deeply,
Okay.
and recognizing that our mind might wander and go onto other thoughts, and that's normal. And we can just
Okay.
become aware of it, recognize it, and move our mind back to our initial focus.
Okay.
And thoughts might come across our mind, and we're really just recognizing those thoughts and
Okay.
then letting it pass and
Mm.
refocusing. And it's a really good technique to calm ourselves.
Okay.
It's something that you can do for 3 minutes. You could do it for
Mhm.
3 minutes, whatever fits into your schedule. It's something you could,
Mhm.
you could do it every morning to start your day, or you could put it into your nighttime routine if
Okay.
you wanted to add that in. Or if you're feeling overwhelmed in the middle of the day, it's something that you can just say, I need a break and I'm going to go take 3 minutes to go.
Okay.
So there's a lot of different, so this is something that you can do at home. You can
Mhm.
either put it into your routine or you can do it as things pop up. So
Okay.
that might be helpful because I know that you're very busy as a mother. So this is something that you can kind of control and figure out when you want to do it and where and what works best for you.
Okay. Okay.
There's an app called Headspace that's really great. It's meditation where it's basically just guiding you through like a 10-minute session. Uh,
Mhm.
so that can help, especially if you're like really new to it.
Okay.
And I can send you that
Okay.
reference. There's also like, you might be doing the meditation and feel like this isn't what I want to do right now. I'm not ready for this. Um,
Mhm.
there's also like mindfulness journaling. So I have like this is
Mhm. Mhm.
mindfulness journaling. It's basically just like prompts in here that
Okay.
are exercises that kind of increase awareness and overall well-being. So if you
Okay.
find yourself liking to journal or write down your thoughts, something like that, that
Okay.
might be a good way to utilize
Okay.
mindfulness. And then lastly, I do have this mindfulness meditation book. It's much more thorough. It's not going to be like exercises like Headspace or journaling, but it really, it's called Wherever You Go, There You Are by John Kabat-Zinn. And can you see it?
Yeah, 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 I can see it.
And it's really just kind of goes into the practice of mindfulness, and it's
Mm.
more thorough. It's a pretty easy read, but
Mhm.
it's definitely more thorough. So it's not going to necessarily be those exercises. So I can send you all of those. You can kind of look them over.
Okay.
You can definitely borrow this book um,
Okay.
if you'd like. So, and then
Yeah.
you can do them on your own time. And then if you want to, we can talk about them in therapy, or they can just be your
Okay.
own private.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds great. Thank you.
I did want to talk about I know that at the last session, when we were talking about like long-term goals, we talked
Mhm.
about like setting a nighttime routine and how you were really having difficulty with
Mhm.
sleep. And that was one of your goals. I
Mhm.
just wanted to
Mhm.
touch base and see how that was going for you.
I feel like it's still the same in regards to like in the middle of the night when I wake up, it's still really hard for me to go to sleep.
Okay.
Um, I haven't been like going and scrolling on my phone during those times, but I do feel like I'm just kind of like laying there awake. Um, it's kind of hard for me to get back down, even when I'm not scrolling. So, but I haven't done the whole blue light thing in the middle of the night. So I'm attempting.
Yeah, that's progress. That's awesome. Is there something that you've been doing like with the phone, or are you just like really resisting?
What do you mean? Like when I
Like,
wake up at night?
yeah, like is your phone,
Oh,
you know,
like
like
putting it somewhere. Yeah, it's just like on my bedside table. It's not in a different room or anything, but
just really like resisting to the urge to,
yes, to not scroll, keep it there. But then I am like just kind of waiting for like, okay, my body should go to sleep by now, you know. And it's resistant to change my sleep habits.
yeah. Okay. I know last time we kind of talked about potentially talking about like medications or something.
Mhm.
I don't know if you thought more about that, but it's definitely something. There are options,
Mhm.
like lots of um, over the counter and also prescription options.
Okay.
I can't prescribe anything, but it's definitely something that we can, talk about. I know that that was one of your long-term goals was
Mhm.
to improve your sleep.
Mhm.
So, um, I guess first, how is the sleep? I know that you're not scrolling through your phone in the middle.
Mhm.
How's that sleep hygiene like prior to bed going?
Um, it's going okay. I mean, it can be better, I guess. I mean, I do feel like it's the time, right, when like my husband and I will watch a show once the kids go down, and um I feel like it's like that time where we bond by doing something together like that. And it's usually like a show or Netflix or something. So I mean, that is a screen, and I know screens aren't great. Um,
I know we talked about like no screens after I think like 9 o'clock. It's like
yeah,
uh,
yeah, it hasn't been happening.
we might. I mean, there might be like adjusting. It might not
Mhm.
after
Yeah,
like alone time together. Then we can adjust things.
yeah. I think it's like factoring in, like it's fall and all the kids have sports and then they get back later and then, all those things. But so I could do better about that. I've made tea a couple times, but I haven't done it religiously.
Okay.
So I could do better about that.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. Incorporating some of that sleep hygiene into
Mhm.
your nightly routine.
Yeah.
But I would encourage you to also reach out to, your doctor and just
Okay.
me, options. Like I said, I can't prescribe, but I can
Mhm.
definitely talk with you and,
Mhm.
if with permission, collaborate with your
Okay.
doctor about, what's going on and anything that might be helpful
Uh-huh.
to you. So
Okay.
you can think about it.
Yeah.
You might want to do some of that, improve some of that sleep hygiene first before you're trying medications. I'm not sure where you are.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. I mean, I think before I would do medications, I would probably do like, I don't know, like the natural or over the counter stuff or something. I would try that before.
Okay.
But
Yeah,
mhm.
that's that's valid. That sounds good. Um, and lastly, I would like to, well, first before I move on to this, anything that you know, came up either in the past week or during this session that you kind of wanted to dive into a little bit more?
um, I mean, I think the automatic thoughts and like tracing back where that started was like pretty impactful. I felt like I haven't quite thought about it like that. And I know I'm gonna have to like, I'll probably be thinking about it for a while, going into the week. But yeah, I haven't thought about that and like where that started, and you know, because parenting didn't come naturally to me and where that kind of led me to here. Um, yeah, so that was pretty impactful for me.
Okay.
Mhm.
Increased a little bit of awareness.
Yeah, yeah, I felt very like under the spotlight that I've never part of my soul that I've never haven't thought about.
That can
Yeah,
be the hard part about therapy, but
yeah, it was. It's like, do I say it's good or do I feel exposed? It's a little bit of everything. So I was like, oh,
yeah.
which I guess it's good.
I mean, therapy can be hard because we're really looking at ourselves,
Mhm.
microscope, but it is the vehicle for change. So
Yeah,
very
yeah,
proud of you for putting in the work today and being
yeah,
vulnerable and open. So,
yeah, I felt that way. So it was good.
all right. Well, now moving forward, we're getting close to the end of our session. I did want to go over this rating scale. It's a
Okay.
session rating scale. So we're gonna do like a scale of 1 to 10
Okay.
on how you felt during the session. And I do encourage you to be very honest and open
Okay.
because everyone needs different things in therapy.
Mhm.
And the only way that I can know how to kind of change anything and
Mhm.
make it more well suited for you is if you communicate what works, what doesn't work, how you felt,
Okay.
anything that I can improve on. Okay.
Okay.
Um, so it's just four areas that you're going to rate from a 0 to 10. Zero
Okay.
meaning, um, like on this first one, is relationships. So 0 would be I did not feel heard, understood, or respected. 10 would be I absolutely felt heard, understood, and respected.
Mhm. Mhm.
Anywhere along that line.
I would say 10.
Okay.
Mhm.
Goals and topics. 0 would be we did not work on or talk about what I wanted to work on and talk about, and 10 would be that we did.
Mm, yeah, I would say we'll do a 9 on that.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Any any anything that could have been like a goal or topic that maybe you wanted to work on
Mm,
for a future session?
mhm. I think maybe practicing like that. I don't know, like how to tell my husband or like those sort of practice skills that I'm a little nervous about it. So
Okay. So working on like communication.
yeah, like that I'm yeah going to try to to not drink anymore. I'm still a little nervous about that. So maybe like next week we could talk about that or something.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds great. We can
Yeah.
definitely.
But other than that, I feel like everything was really good and I talked about things I didn't even know I needed to talk about. So it was great.
Okay, approach or method. The therapist's approach is not a good fit for me, would be a 0 or a 10. It is
I
a
would
great
say
10. Okay. And then your overall, I guess, overall general feeling about the therapy session today. There was something missing in this session, or overall it worked for you.
10. I don't think there's anything missing. I think I definitely like it's kind of I do feel vulnerable and exposed, like highlighted. And I know that's a good thing in therapy, right? What you're mentioning is for change. So I guess that would be a 10. But like inside, I'm kind of like, oh, I'm seen in my like core wounds or whatever. So it's definitely a feeling that's uncomfortable, but I guess that's good, right? In therapy. So I would say a 10.
Okay. Any that's the entirety of the survey. Any other feedback that you'd like to give to me?
No, I mean, my first time going to therapy, I feel like you haven't been judgmental at all, and like very gracious with me. And like we've been very encouraging. Yeah, so I feel like it's all been really great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you do make it easy by being so open and, easy to talk to. So
Mhm.
I
Thanks.
appreciate the work that you're, doing in here.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, well, that is the end. We are at the end of our session. So I will, it was great talking to you,
Yeah,
and we will
likewise.
schedule for next week.
Yeah, great. Thank you. See you next week.
Thank you. Okay, now I think this is like legit feedback that I'm supposed to record. As in, like, not a client, but as my peer.
Yeah, you did awesome. Like I felt like you were really prepared and on your interventions, and it came across. And I know it's kind of falling back those like uh, negative thoughts and automatic thoughts, and like making the whole connection can be really challenging. But you made it kind of easy for me as the client to trace that back. And I think the visual of having that you pulled up was really great too. Because that kind of like
The
was
cognitive distortions?
what?
Was it the cognitive distortions?
Yeah. It was able to like direct the conversation in a way. Cause like then when you're explaining CBT, it can kind of feel up here, but then when you actually like see it on the paper, I thought that was really helpful for me as the client, and to be like, oh, okay. So I thought that was a really great resource. And yeah, it was really good. And then you got that nugget out of like from the previous sessions I talked about of like when I became a mom.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, I thought that was like, it made me feel like, wow, okay, she like really listened and really pulled in like something that I talked about. I think it was like in the first session even. So I thought that was really well done and accurate. And then there was this one time that you paraphrased or a reflection of content. I don't know which one, but you like, I think you named what I was saying. I think it was responsibility, that the responsibility felt heavy. And it was like, I was like, oh yeah, that's what I meant to say. Exactly. You got it. So I thought that was really well done. And yeah, I think on the mindfulness thing, the only thing I would say is when you were talking about it, um, like, I don't know if you asked me if I wanted to do it or if I've ever done it before.
Mhm.
Um, and so it felt like you were talking about all these different options, but I didn't say, like, I was nodding yes. And I would obviously say yes, because that does sound good. But I think that was like the only time like checking in if like I want to do that or I'm tracking with that. But yeah, that was the only thing. It was all really, really well done.
Awesome. Thanks for being an awesome client.
Yeah, I tried. I tried.
Okay. I will stop this recording.